The champagne flute shattered against the marble floor 3 seconds before everything changed. Mei Lin didn't flinch. She stood frozen in the cathedral doorway, mop handle gripped like a weapon, watching 200 of Shanghai's most dangerous elite turn in unison to stare at the woman who'd just interrupted the most anticipated wedding of the year. She wore a stained grey uniform. Her hair was falling from its practical bun. Her shoes squeaked against the polished floor as she took one trembling step forward into the cathedral that cost more to decorate than she'd earn in 10 lifetimes. And she opened her mouth to destroy a man she'd never met. "Sir," her voice cracked across the hushed space, barely above a whisper but somehow carrying to every pew. "That's not your fiancé." 48 hours earlier, Mei Lin had been invisible. That was the nature of her work, of her entire existence, really. She cleaned the penthouse offices of the Golden Dragon Tower, arriving at midnight when the powerful men who ruled Shanghai's underworld had finally gone home to their mistresses and mansions. She moved through their spaces like air, present but unnoticed, essential but unseen. 27 years old, and she'd perfected the art of disappearing. She kept her eyes down, her movements efficient, her thoughts to herself. The less she knew, the longer she'd live. That was the first rule of working for triads, even if officially she was employed by a legitimate cleaning company that just happened to service buildings owned by criminal empires. The Golden Dragon Tower belonged to Chen Wei, though everyone called him Long Dragon. She'd never seen him in person, only glimpses in photographs that decorated the executive suite. Handsome in that dangerous way, all sharp angles and colder eyes. 42 years old, and he'd built an empire that stretched from Shanghai to London, from legitimate shipping companies to things Mei Lin tried very hard not to think about. That Tuesday night started like any other. She signed in with building security, the same guard who never remembered her name, despite seeing her 5 nights a week for 3 years. She took the service elevator to the 58th floor, unlocked the executive suite with her master key, and began the familiar routine. Empty the trash bins, dust the surfaces, vacuum the carpets, polish the windows that overlooked the Huangpu River, where the city lights reflected like fallen stars. She was wiping down the conference table when she heard it. Voices, low and urgent, drifting from the private office she'd assumed was empty. Mei Lin froze, cloth suspended above the polished wood. The building was supposed to be empty at this hour. She glanced at her watch. 1:47 a.m. Nobody should be here. The smart thing would be to leave, grab her supplies, clock out early, pretend she'd never heard anything. But curiosity was a terrible master, and Mei Lin had always struggled with obedience to her better judgment. She moved closer to the office door, which stood slightly ajar. Through the gap, she could see 2 figures silhouetted against floor-to-ceiling windows. One was a woman, tall, elegant, wearing a white dress that looked like it cost more than Mei Lin's yearly rent. The other was broader, masculine, but definitely not Chen Wei based on the photographs she'd seen. They were speaking Mandarin, but peppered with English phrases in a way that suggested international business, or international crime. Probably both. "The wedding is in 48 hours, the woman said, her voice smooth as silk over steel. "Everything must be perfect." "It will be." The man sounded confident, almost smug. "Long has no idea who you really are. He thinks this marriage is about love, about family alliances. He has no clue it's actually his execution." The woman finished, and she laughed. The sound made Mei Lin's blood run cold. 2 years of playing the devoted fiancé, 2 years of smiling and pretending, all for this moment. Mei Lin's heart hammered against her ribs. She should leave. She should run. She should... "The poison will be in the ceremonial wine," the woman continued. "Traditional, expected, completely above suspicion. He'll drink it during the vows, and within 3 minutes he'll collapse. Heart attack, the doctors will say. Tragic, but natural for a man under so much stress. And his assets? Transfer to me as his widow. Every company, every account, every piece of his empire. The dragon's throne will finally have a new ruler." The woman moved into better light, and Mei Lin saw her face clearly for the first time. She was beautiful in the way expensive things are beautiful, polished, perfected, utterly cold. Her name surfaced from the society pages Mei Lin had glimpsed in discarded newspapers. Vivienne Zhang, daughter of a Hong Kong shipping magnate, Chen Wei's fiancée of 2 years, his murderer in 48 hours. "What about his men?" the man asked. "His lieutenants won't just accept new leadership. They will when presented with proof that Long planned to betray them all. The forged documents are already in place, communications showing he was working with the police, preparing to sell them out for immunity." Vivienne's smile was a blade. "By the time they realize the truth, I'll have consolidated power. Anyone who questions me will have a very short conversation about loyalty." The man laughed. "Brilliant. Absolutely brilliant." "It's business," Vivienne said simply. "Nothing personal. Long is simply in the way of something I want. His death removes the obstacle. His reputation ensures nobody will mourn him. Perfect mathematics." Mei Lin backed away from the door, her hands trembling so violently she nearly dropped the cleaning cloth. Her mind raced through impossible calculations. She'd just overheard a murder plot against one of Shanghai's most powerful crime lords. She was a cleaning woman with no connections, no power, no protection. She should pretend she'd heard nothing, should finish her shift, collect her meager paycheck, and let whatever happened, happen. It wasn't her business. Chen Wei was a criminal anyway, probably responsible for dozens of deaths himself. Maybe he deserved what was coming. But her father's voice echoed in her memory, words he'd spoken before the cancer took him 2 years ago. "Silence in the face of evil makes you complicit, little flower, even when speaking up costs everything." Mei Lin slipped out of the executive suite like a shadow, but her mind was anything but quiet. She had 48 hours to decide if she was brave or simply suicidal. 36 hours before the wedding, Mei Lin stood outside the Golden Dragon Tower, staring up at its gleaming facade while traffic roared past and the December cold bit through her thin jacket. She'd spent the previous day paralyzed by indecision. The smart choice was obvious: stay silent, stay safe, let the powerful destroy each other, as they always did. Nobody would fault a cleaning woman for minding her own business, but she couldn't stop thinking about it, about Vivienne's cold calculation, about poison hidden in ceremonial wine, about a man who had no idea the woman he loved was his executioner. Not that Chen Wei was innocent. Mei Lin wasn't naive enough to romanticize a crime lord. But there was something profoundly wrong about Vivienne's plan, about the casual way she discussed murder and manipulation, about using love as a weapon. And Mei Lin had spent too much of her life being powerless to let this moment pass without at least trying. The problem was access. She couldn't exactly walk up to Chen Wei and announce she'd overheard a murder plot. He was surrounded by layers of security, insulated from the world by men with guns and no hesitation about using them. Even if she somehow got close enough to speak to him, why would he believe her? She was nobody. A cleaning woman making wild accusations against his beautiful fiancée. She needed proof, something concrete, something he couldn't dismiss. The executive suite. Vivienne had mentioned forged documents, planted evidence against Chen Wei's lieutenants. If Mei Lin could find those documents, photograph them, present them as proof, it was insane. She'd be risking everything for a man who probably wouldn't even thank her. But standing there in the December cold, watching powerful people stream in and out of the tower like they owned the world, Mei Lin made her choice. She would try. That night, Mei Lin arrived for her shift with a phone she'd bought that morning, the cheapest smartphone the corner shop sold, but it had a camera, and that was all she needed. The executive suite was empty again, silent, except for the hum of electronics and the whisper of the heating system. Mei Lin worked quickly, her heart hammering as she searched Chen Wei's private office. The desk yielded nothing suspicious. The filing cabinets were locked. She was starting to panic when she noticed the painting on the wall, slightly askew, as if someone had been in a hurry when replacing it. Behind the painting was a safe. Of course. Mei Lin stared at the combination lock, despair washing over her. She didn't have the skills to crack a safe. She didn't have time to learn. She had maybe 20 minutes before building security did their rounds. She was about to give up when she noticed it, a post-it note stuck to the back of the desk, barely visible. A series of numbers in Chen Wei's handwriting, probably meant as a temporary reminder and then forgotten. With trembling fingers, Mei Lin tried the combination. The safe clicked open. Inside were files, dozens of them, organized with meticulous care. She pulled them out, scanning quickly, her phone camera clicking as she photographed page after page. Bank transfers, forged communications. Detailed plans for framing Chen Wei's lieutenants for crimes they hadn't committed. Everything Vivienne had mentioned and more. And at the bottom of the safe, a small vial. Clear liquid, unlabeled, but Mei Lin knew exactly what it was. The poison meant for Chen Wei's wedding cup. She photographed everything, her hands shaking so badly the images came out blurred. She'd have to retake them. The camera clicked again. The minutes ticked away. She was replacing the files when she heard it. Footsteps in the corridor outside. Voices speaking rapid Mandarin. Panic flooded through her. She shoved the files back into the safe, swung it closed, repositioned the painting, grabbed her cleaning supplies and tried to look like she belonged there, like she was just another invisible cleaner doing her job. The door opened. 2 of Chen Wei's security guards entered, their expression shifting to suspicion when they saw her. "What are you doing here?" one demanded. "Cleaning." Mei Lin kept her voice steady, submissive. "Same as every night." "It's past 2 a.m. You should be done by now." "I'm running behind. Big mess in the conference room." She gestured vaguely toward the other end of the suite. "I'll be finished soon." The guards exchanged glances. One of them moved toward the private office, and Mei Lin's heart stopped. If he checked the safe, if he noticed the painting was slightly crooked. "Hurry up," the first guard said instead. "Mr. Chen wants the building cleared by 3. Security sweep before the wedding." They left. Mei Lin waited until their footsteps faded, then allowed herself to breathe. She had the evidence. Photographs of Vivienne's entire plot, proof of the poison, documentation of the conspiracy. Now she just needed to figure out how to get it to Chen Wei without getting killed in the process. 12 hours before the wedding, Mei Lin stood outside the cathedral where the ceremony would take place, watching expensive cars deliver guests who looked like they'd stepped out of fashion magazines. She'd tried everything she could think of to reach Chen Wei. Called his office, only to be dismissed by secretaries who barely listened before hanging up. Tried to approach his building, only to be stopped by security, who threatened to call the police if she didn't leave. She'd even written a letter, detailed and desperate, explaining everything she'd overheard. She'd tried to hand-deliver it to his residence, only to have the gate guard throw it away without reading it. Nobody would listen to a cleaning woman. Nobody cared. So she was left with one option. One moment when Chen Wei would be accessible, surrounded by witnesses, unable to simply dismiss her. The wedding itself. It was insane. She'd be arrested, probably beaten, possibly killed. But if she could just get his attention for 30 seconds, show him the photographs on her phone, make him understand, maybe he'd live. Maybe Vivienne's plan would fail. Maybe Mei Lin's death would at least accomplish something. She went home to her tiny apartment, the 6th-floor walk-up in a building that should have been condemned years ago. She showered, put on the only nice dress she owned, purchased for a job interview 3 years ago, and never worn since. Black, simple, slightly too large because she'd lost weight she couldn't afford to lose. She looked at herself in the cracked mirror and barely recognized the woman staring back. When had she become so thin, so tired, so invisible? Not invisible anymore, she whispered to her reflection. Not today. The cathedral was magnificent, all soaring ceilings and stained glass, centuries old and restored with money that could have fed entire neighborhoods. Mei Lin slipped in through a side entrance, blending with the catering staff. Nobody stopped her. Nobody even looked at her. She positioned herself in an alcove near the main entrance, partially hidden by a marble column. From here, she could see the entire ceremony space. 200 guests filled the pews, crime lords, politicians, business magnates, all dressed in formal wear that cost more than Mei Lin would earn in 5 years. At the altar stood Chen Wei. Seeing him in person stole her breath. The photographs hadn't captured the reality of him, the dangerous grace in how he stood, the cold intelligence in his dark eyes. He wore a traditional Tang suit in midnight blue, embroidered with golden dragons. He looked like an emperor. He looked like prey who didn't know the hunter was already in position. Vivienne entered to the strains of a string quartet. Her dress was Western style, white silk that flowed like water. She looked radiant, glowing, every inch the blushing bride. Only Mei Lin could see the predator beneath the performance. The ceremony began, traditional vows blending with modern sentiment. Chen Wei gazed at Vivienne with something that might have been love, or might have been the careful calculation of a man who trusted no one. Mei Lin couldn't tell which. Then came the moment. The ceremonial wine, 2 cups filled from the same bottle by a servant who Mei Lin now realized must be one of Vivienne's plants. The poison would be in Chen Wei's cup only. Precise, professional, undetectable until it was too late. The officiant raised his hands, beginning the blessing that would precede the drinking. Chen Wei reached for his cup. Vivienne's smile was triumphant. Mei Lin stepped out from behind the column. "Stop!" Her voice cracked across the cathedral like a whip. 200 faces turned toward her. The music died mid-note. Even the candles seemed to flicker in shock. Mei Lin walked down the center aisle. Her cheap shoes squeaking against marble, her hands trembling so badly she had to clench them into fists to keep them steady. "Sir," she said again, addressing Chen Wei directly. Her voice shook, but held. "That's not your fiancée." The silence was absolute. Chen Wei stared at her, his expression unreadable. Vivienne's smile had frozen into something terrible. "I mean," Mei Lin continued, forcing herself forward, even as armed guards began moving toward her. She's not who you think she is. She's trying to kill you. The wine is poisoned. Get her out, Vivienne said, her voice sharp. She's clearly mentally unstable. How did security even let her in? Two guards grabbed Mei Lin's arms. She struggled, trying to pull her phone from her pocket. Wait! I have proof. Please, just look at my phone. I have photographs, evidence, everything. Chen Wei raised one hand. The guards stopped immediately, still holding Mei Lin but no longer dragging her away. Explain, he said. Just one word, but it carried absolute command. I clean your offices, Mei Lin said rapidly, the words tumbling out. Tuesday night, I overheard her. She pointed at Vivienne. She was in your office with a man, planning this. The poison in the wine, the forged documents to frame your lieutenants, everything. It's all on my phone. Please just look. Chen Wei's expression didn't change, but something flickered in his eyes. Calculation, maybe. Or suspicion, finally awakened. He gestured, and one of the guards took Mei Lin's phone, carried it to him. This is ridiculous, Vivienne said, but Mei Lin heard the edge of panic in her voice now. Wei, darling, you can't possibly believe some random cleaning woman over me. She's obviously quiet. Chen Wei didn't raise his voice, but Vivienne fell silent immediately. He scrolled through the photographs on Mei Lin's phone. His expression remained neutral, but his grip on the device tightened. Slowly, he looked up at Vivienne. Would you like to explain these documents? He asked softly. The ones in my private safe, detailing how to frame my most loyal men for crimes they didn't commit. Vivienne's face drained of colour. I don't know what she's talking about. Those could be fabricated. Anyone could. The handwriting on the margins is yours, Chen Wei continued, still in that terrifyingly calm voice. I've seen it on enough cards and letters. And this? He held up the phone, showing an image of the poison vial. This was in my safe 2 days ago. I'd noticed it was disturbed, but assumed one of my men was being careless. He set the phone down carefully, then picked up the wine cup in front of him. Perhaps we should test your confidence. If the cleaning woman is lying, this wine is perfectly safe. Drink it. The cathedral held its breath. Vivienne stared at the cup, her beautiful face a mask of trapped panic. Wei, I can explain. Drink it, or I'll have my men force it down your throat. No longer calm. Now his voice carried the cold fury of a man who'd just realized he'd been sleeping beside his executioner for 2 years. Vivienne bolted. She gathered her white skirts and ran for the side exit, her heels clicking frantically on marble. She made it maybe 10 feet before Chen Wei's guards intercepted her, pulling her down with professional efficiency. The cathedral erupted in chaos, guests shouting, standing, phones appearing to document the scandal. Chen Wei stood at the altar, perfectly still in the center of the storm, staring at the wine cup in his hand. Then his gaze found Mei Lin, still held between 2 guards, trembling so violently her teeth chattered. Release her, he said quietly. Bring her to me. Mei Lin's legs barely supported her as the guards escorted her to the altar. Up close, Chen Wei was even more intimidating, tall, perfectly composed, radiating danger like heat from a flame. What's your name? He asked. Mei Lin. A voice came out as a whisper. I clean your offices. I didn't mean to overhear. I couldn't let her kill you. Even though you don't know me, even though you probably... She stopped, overwhelmed. Chen Wei studied her for a long moment. Then, unexpectedly, he smiled. It transformed his face, made him look younger, almost kind. You just saved my life, Mei Lin, at great risk to your own. He glanced at the guard, still restraining Vivienne, who was screaming threats and curses in 3 languages. I don't forget debts. "I don't want anything," Mei Lin said quickly. "I just wanted you to know, to be safe." Nevertheless, he pulled a card from his jacket pocket, wrote something on it with a pen one of his men provided. "My private number. Call it tomorrow. We'll discuss how I can properly thank you." Before Mei Lin could respond, police sirens wailed outside. Someone had called the authorities, and even crime lords had to maintain certain appearances. Chen Wei's men moved with practiced efficiency, securing Vivienne, preparing statements, managing the chaos. In the confusion, Mei Lin slipped away. She walked out of the cathedral into the cold December air, her entire body shaking from adrenaline crash. She'd done it. She'd actually stopped the wedding, saved a life, survived. She should go home, should disappear back into her invisible life before anyone remembered to ask questions she couldn't answer. But as she stood on the cathedral steps, watching expensive cars speed away and police lights paint everything blue and red, she felt the card Chen Wei had pressed into her hand. His private number, written in bold, confident strokes. "Tomorrow," he'd said. "Call tomorrow." Mei Lin looked at that card, at the promise it represented, of recognition, of being seen, of stepping out of the shadows for the first time in her life. And she realized with dawning wonder that she'd changed something, not just Chen Wei's fate, but her own. She'd stopped being invisible. Mei Lin didn't call the next day or the day after. The card with Chen Wei's private number sat on her nightstand, simultaneously terrifying and tempting. What could she possibly say to a man like that? "Hello, I'm the cleaning woman who crashed your wedding." The whole situation felt surreal, like something that had happened to someone else. But Shanghai's underworld didn't forget. 3 days after the cathedral incident, Mei Lin's apartment door received a knock at precisely 9 a.m. She opened it to find a woman in an impeccable black suit, flanked by 2 men who radiated professional menace. "Miss Mei Lin?" The woman's Mandarin was Beijing perfect. "Mr. Chen requests your presence. Please come with us." It wasn't a request. It was never a request with people like this. Mei Lin grabbed her coat with trembling hands and followed them down to the waiting car, a sleek Mercedes that looked obscenely out of place in her neighborhood. Neighbors watched from windows, curtains twitching. By nightfall, rumors would spread that she'd been arrested or worse. The drive took 30 minutes, heading toward the city's most exclusive district. The car pulled up to a building that looked like it belonged in a European capital, all classical architecture and old money. They led her through security that scanned her 3 separate ways, then into an elevator that required both a key card and a fingerprint. The ride up was silent, except for the soft classical music playing through hidden speakers. The penthouse was stunning. Floor-to-ceiling windows overlooking the Huangpu River, furniture that looked antique and priceless, art on the walls that Mei Lin recognized from museum catalogues. Chen Wei stood by the windows, wearing casual clothes, dark pants and a white shirt that somehow still looked impossibly expensive. He turned when she entered, and his expression was unreadable. "Mei Lin, thank you for coming." As if she'd had a choice. "Please, sit." She perched nervously on the edge of a chair that probably cost more than her yearly salary, acutely aware of her bargain store clothes and scuffed shoes. "I should have called," she said quickly. "I meant to, but I didn't know what to say, and—" "You saved my life," Chen Wei interrupted gently. "At considerable risk to yourself. The least you deserved was time to process that." He moved to a sideboard, poured tea with practiced grace, and brought her a cup. The porcelain was so fine it was nearly transparent. "Do you know what happened to Vivienne?" he asked, settling into the chair across from her. Mei Lin shook her head. "She's alive, currently being held in a very secure location while we sort through the extent of her conspiracy." His voice was calm, but something cold moved through his eyes. "It seems she was working with several of my rivals. The plan was sophisticated: kill me, frame my lieutenants, create chaos while she consolidated power." "I'm sorry," Mei Lin said, not sure what else to offer. "Don't be. Better to discover a serpent before it strikes than after." He sipped his tea. "Which brings me to why I asked you here. You put yourself in danger for a stranger. Why?" Mei Lin struggled for words. "Because it was wrong." What she was planning, it was just wrong. Many things in this world are wrong. Most people look away. My father taught me not to. She met his gaze, finding unexpected courage. He said silence makes you complicit, even when speaking up costs everything. Chen Wei studied her with unsettling intensity. "Your father sounds like a wise man." "He was. He died 2 years ago. I'm sorry for your loss." The condolence sounded genuine. "Mei Lin, I don't forget debts. You saved my life, and that creates an obligation I take very seriously. I'd like to offer you something." Her heart kicked nervously. "You don't have to. A position in my organization, legitimate work, not—" He gestured vaguely. "The other aspects of my business, I have several legal enterprises that need trustworthy people." "You've proven you can't be bought or intimidated. That's rarer than you might think." Mei Lin stared at him. A job offer from a crime lord. It should terrify her, should send her running back to her invisible life-cleaning offices. "What kind of position?" she heard herself ask. "Whatever suits your skills. I know you've been working as a cleaner, but I suspect you're capable of more. Do you have education?" "Some college, business administration. I had to drop out when my father got sick to work and pay for his treatment." The old bitterness leaked through despite her efforts to contain it. "Then we'll start there. I have a legitimate import-export company that needs someone to manage logistics. The pay is—" He named a figure that made Mei Lin's breath catch. It was 4 times what she currently made, maybe 5. "That's too much," she whispered. "It's fair compensation for someone I can trust absolutely. Trust is worth more than gold in my world." He leaned forward slightly. "But I need to be clear about what accepting means. You'd be working for me, which makes you visible to my enemies. There would be security concerns. Your life would change considerably. Would I be safe? I'd insure it personally. Anyone who touched you would answer to me." The promise carried weight and threat. Mei Lin thought about her apartment with its broken heat and questionable wiring, about the cleaning job that paid barely enough to survive, about being invisible, powerless, forgotten, about how it had felt to step out from behind that column in the cathedral, to be seen, to matter. "Yes," she said, "I accept." Chen Wei smiled, and it was genuine. "Excellent. You start Monday. My assistant will arrange everything. Apartment, security detail, orientation to the company." "Apartment?" "You can't live in that building anymore. It's not safe now that you're associated with me." "I own several properties. You can choose whichever suits you." The reality of what she'd just agreed to crashed over her. Her life was about to change completely, irrevocably. Chen Wei must have seen the panic on her face because his expression softened. "Breathe, Mei Lin. Change is overwhelming, but I promise you'll be protected. No one will hurt you, not while you're under my care." The possessiveness in his tone should have warned her, should have made her reconsider, but sitting there in that beautiful penthouse, drinking tea from porcelain cups, being seen by someone powerful for the first time in her life. Mei Lin didn't want to run, she wanted to stay. "Thank you," she whispered, "for this opportunity. Thank you for my life." He raised his teacup in a small salute. "I don't think you understand yet how rare you are, Mei Lin. But you will." 3 months transformed Mei Lin's entire existence. The apartment Chen Wei provided was in one of Shanghai's most exclusive towers, 23rd floor, floor-to-ceiling windows, furniture that looked like art. The first night she spent there, Mei Lin cried, not from sadness but from the overwhelming strangeness of having space, warmth, silence that wasn't broken by neighbors fighting through paper-thin walls. The job was real. Chen Wei's import-export company dealt in legitimate goods, textiles, electronics, tea. Mei Lin's role involved coordinating shipments, managing customs documentation, liaising with international clients. It was challenging work, but she discovered she was good at it. Her college education hadn't been wasted after all. Security followed her everywhere. 2 bodyguards rotated shifts, silent professionals who kept their distance but were always watching. At first, their presence made her paranoid. After the first week, she barely noticed them. What she did notice was Chen Wei. He appeared at the office several times a week, ostensibly to check on operations, but always finding time to speak with her. Brief conversations at first. How was she settling in? Did she need anything? Then longer discussions over coffee. He asked about her father, her childhood, her dreams before life had forced her to abandon them. He listened in a way that made her feel heard. Really heard. For the first time since her father died. "You're different than I expected," she told him one afternoon. They'd stayed late going over a complicated shipping contract, and now sat in his office while the city glittered 60 floors below. "From the rumors, I mean." "And what do the rumors say?" He looked amused. "That you're ruthless, cold, that you built your empire on bodies and fear." "The rumors aren't wrong." His expression didn't change. "I've done terrible things to protect what's mine, Mei Lin. I won't pretend otherwise." "But you're also—" She struggled for words. "Kind, to me at least." "You saved my life. That earns certain considerations." He paused, something flickering across his face. "And you interest me. You're brave in a way that has nothing to do with violence." That's rare in my world. The intensity of his gaze made her breath catch. They were alone in the office. The door closed, the city spread beneath them like a fallen empire. The air felt charged, dangerous. "I should go," Mei Lin said, standing quickly. "It's late." "Yes." But Chen Wei stood too, moved closer. "Mei Lin, I want you to understand something. Working for me means you're under my protection, but it also means people will see you as mine. They'll use you to hurt me if given the chance. I know, you've explained the risks. I don't think you fully grasped them yet." He was close enough now that she could smell his cologne, expensive, subtle, unmistakably him. "But I'm going to be very clear about this. If anyone threatens you, if anyone makes you uncomfortable, if anything at all concerns you, you tell me immediately. I have bodyguards for that. You have me for that." His hand came up, fingers brushing her jaw with unexpected gentleness. "The bodyguards are a formality. Your real protection is knowing that anyone who harms you will answer to me personally. And I'm not known for my mercy." The promise should have terrified her. Instead, it made her feel something dangerously close to safe. "Wei," she whispered, using his given name for the first time. It felt intimate, forbidden. "I'm trying very hard to be professional," he said quietly. his thumb tracing her cheekbone. To maintain appropriate boundaries. But you make that difficult, Mei Lin. I didn't mean to. I know, which makes it worse. He stepped back, severing the contact. Go home. Get some rest. We have the Johnson meeting tomorrow, and I need you sharp. Mei Lin fled, her heart pounding, her skin tingling where he'd touched her. This was dangerous. He was her employer, a crime lord, someone absolutely unsuitable for any kind of personal relationship. But as she lay in her expensive apartment that night, staring at the ceiling, all she could think about was how his fingers had felt against her skin, how his voice had roughened when he said her name, how for 3 months he'd been unfailingly respectful, professional, kind, how she was starting to care about him in ways that would definitely get her hurt. The Johnson meeting changed everything. David Johnson was an American businessman looking to establish shipping routes between Shanghai and Los Angeles. Legitimate business, good money, exactly the kind of client Chen Wei's company courted. And the meeting took place at one of Shanghai's most exclusive restaurants. Mei Lin had dressed carefully, professional but elegant, a navy dress Chen Wei's assistant had helped her choose. Her role was to present the logistics analysis, demonstrate the company's capabilities. Johnson was in his 50s, tall, broad, with the casual arrogance of someone accustomed to getting his way. His handshake lingered too long. His eyes travelled over Mei Lin in a way that made her skin crawl. The presentation went well despite her discomfort. Chen Wei sat beside her, occasionally interjecting with strategic insights, his presence steady and reassuring. It was during the dinner portion that things deteriorated. So, Mei Lin, Johnson said, his Mandarin terrible but understandable, how'd someone like you end up working for the Dragon? You don't seem the type to mix with, he gestured vaguely, this world. I value loyalty and competence, Chen Wei answered before Mei Lin could respond. Miss Mei possesses both. I'm sure she possesses many things. Johnson's smile was oily. Tell me, is she included in the deal? Because I'd be very interested in... Chen Wei's chopsticks hit his plate with a sharp click. Excuse me. Johnson seemed to realize his mistake, but doubled down anyway. I'm just saying, a beautiful woman like her, working for a man like you. It's an arrangement, right? And I'm willing to pay very well for similar arrangements. The temperature in the room dropped 20 degrees. Chen Wei stood slowly, his expression carved from ice. Mr. Johnson, he said, his voice deadly quiet. I'm going to give you one opportunity to apologize to Miss Mei for that grotesque suggestion. One opportunity to walk out of here with your business prospects intact. Johnson laughed, clueless. Come on, Chen, don't be... He didn't finish the sentence. Chen Wei moved with cobra speed, grabbing Johnson's collar and yanking him halfway across the table. Dishes crashed, wine spilled. Other diners gasped. You just propositioned one of my employees, Chen Wei said, each word precise and sharp. Suggested she was a prostitute available for purchase. Do you understand how deeply you've insulted her? How deeply you've insulted me? I didn't mean... Get out. Our business relationship is terminated. If I ever see you in Shanghai again, I'll ensure you regret it. He released Johnson, who stumbled back, his face red. You can't threaten me. I have connections, lawyers, and I have people who make problems disappear. Chen Wei's smile was terrifying. Test me, please. Johnson fled, literally ran from the restaurant, leaving his coat and briefcase behind. The other diners quickly found interest in their own meals, looking anywhere except at Chen Wei, who turned to Mei Lin, his expression softening immediately. "Are you all right?" he asked. She nodded, shaken. "You didn't have to?" "Yes, I did." He offered his hand. "Come, we're leaving." In the car, Mei Lin sat in stunned silence while Chen Wei made phone calls in rapid Mandarin. She caught enough to understand he was blacklisting Johnson across every network he controlled, ensuring the man would never do business in China again. "That was excessive," she finally said. "It was necessary." He ended the call, turned to her. "Mei Lin, you work for me. That makes you untouchable. Anyone who disrespects you disrespects me. I won't tolerate it." "He's just an idiot businessman, not worth—" "You're worth it." The intensity in his voice stopped her breath. "Do you understand? You saved my life. You've proven yourself competent, loyal, honest. In my world, those qualities are priceless. I protect what's mine." "I'm not yours," she whispered. "Aren't you?" He moved closer, and suddenly the car felt very small. "You wear the clothes I bought, live in the apartment I provide, work at the company I own. You're under my protection, my care, my—" He stopped, jaw clenching. "You're what?" "I'm trying not to say it. Trying to maintain boundaries, but you make it very difficult, Mei Lin." Her heart pounded. "Maybe I don't want boundaries." The confession hung between them. Chen Wei stared at her, something hungry and desperate moving through his eyes. "You don't know what you're saying," he said roughly. "I'm not a good man. I've killed people, destroyed lives, built everything I have on violence and fear." "You deserve better than—" Mei Lin kissed him. It was impulsive, terrifying, the bravest thing she'd ever done. She grabbed his shirt and pulled him toward her, pressing her lips against his before courage could desert her. For one heartbeat, he froze. Then he kissed her back with an intensity that stole her breath. His hand cupped her face, gentle despite the desperation in how his mouth moved against hers. When they broke apart, both breathing hard, Chen Wei rested his forehead against hers. "This is a terrible idea," he whispered. "I know." "I'm dangerous. My world is dangerous."
"Getting close to me puts you at risk." "I don't care." "Mei Lin, I've been invisible my whole life," she interrupted, her voice shaking. "Powerless, ignored, forgotten. Then I saved you, and you saw me, really saw me. Do you know how rare that is, how precious?" His thumb traced her jaw. "You have no idea what you're doing to me." "Then tell me. No more boundaries, no more professional distance. Tell me what you want." Chen Wei pulled back slightly, his dark eyes searching hers with painful intensity. "I want you. Not as an employee, not as a debt to repay. I want you in my life, in my bed, in my world, despite all the reasons that's selfish and wrong." He took a shaky breath. "But I need you to understand what that means. My enemies will see you as a weakness. They'll try to hurt you to hurt me."
"Your life will never be simple or safe again." "It was never safe," Mei Lin said. "I was one paycheck from homelessness, one illness from disaster. At least with you, I'm choosing the danger, and what I get in return—" She touched his face, marveling at her own boldness. "What I get is someone who sees me, who protects me, who makes me feel like I matter." "You do matter." His voice was rough with emotion. "More than you know, more than is wise." He kissed her again, deeper this time, claiming. When the car finally pulled up to her building, neither of them wanted to let go. "Come upstairs," Mei Lin whispered against his mouth. Chen Wei's control cracked. "Yes." 6 months later, Mei Lin woke in Chen Wei's penthouse, their penthouse now, to find him standing by the windows, watching the sunrise paint Shanghai in gold and rose. She'd moved in 3 months ago after the third assassination attempt, made it clear that maintaining separate residences was more dangerous than staying together. Not that either of them had objected. What had started in the back of a car had grown into something neither could deny. "You're thinking too loud," she said, sitting up. The silk sheets pooled around her waist, sheets Chen Wei had insisted on buying because he liked how they felt against her skin. He turned, smiled. Even after 6 months, that smile still made her heart skip. "Just remembering," he said. "A year ago, I was about to marry a woman who wanted me dead. Now I'm standing here with someone who crashed my wedding to save my life. Best decision I ever made." Mei Lin moved to join him, and he wrapped his arms around her from behind. Together they watched the city wake. "I had news yesterday," Chen Wei said quietly. "Vivienne's trial concluded. Life in prison, no possibility of parole." Mei Lin absorbed this. "How do you feel?" "Nothing. She means nothing to me now." His arms tightened. "What matters is this. Us. Building something real from the wreckage she left behind. Something legitimate?" He laughed softly. "I'm working on it. Transitioning the businesses to fully legal operations. It'll take years, maybe decades. Some things can never be completely clean, but for you, I'm trying." Mei Lin turned in his arms, looking up at him. "I never asked you to change." "I know, which is why I want to." He kissed her forehead. "You saved more than my life that day in the cathedral, Mei Lin. You saved me from becoming something irredeemable. Showed me there was still something worth protecting beyond power and territory. And what's that? You! This! The possibility of being more than the monster they say I am." Mei Lin pulled him down for a proper kiss. When they broke apart, the sun had fully risen, painting everything in light. "I love you," she said. The first time she'd said it out loud, though she'd felt it for months. Chen Wei's expression transformed. Wonder, joy, something that might have been relief. "I love you too," he replied. "My fierce little cleaner who stopped a wedding and changed everything." They stood there as Shanghai woke beneath them, a cleaning woman and a crime lord, building something impossible together. Not perfect, never perfect. His world would always carry shadows, but they faced them together. And that was enough. More than enough. That was everything.